Are we now heading towards a major war in the Middle East? Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, a lot to talk about today, a lot of news over the last 24 to 48 hours. But I got to tell you, my friends, one of the biggest stories by far in the world is what has taken place now in the Middle East, in particular in Lebanon, involving Israel, Hezbollah, and Iran. As many of you know, because it's been talked about in the media over the last 24, 36 hours, in an absolutely remarkable operation. There's just no other word to describe it. Truly remarkable. Something out of a Hollywood movie. Israel's Mossad intelligence agency pulled off one of the greatest, most sophisticated, frankly brilliant, coordinated attacks on the Hezbollah terrorist network, which, as you know, is completely backed by the Ayatollahs in Iran. And so here is exactly what took place. More information is now coming out. So what the Israelis did was they were able to insert explosive material into the pagers that Hezbollah terrorists and their people in their network use. Now, Hezbollah uses pagers. You may say, Jeff, who the hell uses pagers now in the, 2024? Well, Hezbollah does. And the reason why is because pagers are considered very low tech compared to most, cell phones, iPhones, all sorts of other technology. But that negates then the ability of the Israelis to monitor them, to track them, to use GPS. So they like to use low-tech communication devices to communicate with one another. And as you know, Hezbollah has been raining rockets on Israel. Hezbollah wants to open up a northern front in the all-out war that Iran is now clandestinely waging against the Israeli state, the Jewish state, unleashing Hamas in the south, Hezbollah in the north, and the Houthis firing rockets and missiles all the way out from the Red Sea. So right now, Israel is facing a three-front war. What the Israelis did, and apparently now, according to multiple media reports, is they did it at the production level. This is what's remarkable. So they intercepted that Hezbollah had ordered thousands of new pagers from a Taiwanese manufacturing company. And somehow, on the production floor, they were able to insert explosive material, several grams of it, into every single one of these pagers. And then they used a sophisticated technology in which a code was going to be sent, and this code, which the Hezbollah agents thought was a message from the Hezbollah leadership. So they're like, "Oh, leadership wants to say something," and they start clicking on the pager, and that code set off a detonation, and simultaneously, at about 3:30 in the afternoon, several days ago, pagers began to explode all across Lebanon. In Beirut, the capital city, in cities all across Lebanon, you just see explosion after explosion after explosion after explosion. People maimed, Hezbollah terrorists killed, seriously injured. For example, Iran's ambassador to Lebanon. And you have to ask yourself, what the hell is he doing holding a Hezbollah pager? But let that go. Iran's ambassador to Lebanon, his pager blew up. He lost one eye and severely injured the other eye. He's effectively now blind. What happened was, all across Lebanon, Hezbollah terrorists, Hezbollah fighters, Hezbollah agents were being rushed to the hospital, some dead, others maimed, seriously injured, it unleashed a wave of panic, a wave of fear. And then yesterday came the second wave of attacks. This time in the walkie-talkies, handheld radio devices, walkie-talkies, even on some of their solar panels. And it was a second wave of explosions. Again, coordinated, detonated. And it was boom, 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 boom. 14 so far have been killed. Thousands more seriously wounded. That was just in yesterday's attack. In total, dozens of Hezbollah terrorists are dead. And nearly 10,000 of them have been seriously maimed, crippled, injured. Lebanon's hospitals are filling up. The Lebanese government is calling this a criminal act of aggression by Israel, a violation of Lebanon's sovereignty. Iran is now vowing an all-out response, saying that this is a declaration of war by the Israelis. Now, all of this is taking place under the Harris-Biden regime. And it appears that the Harris-Biden regime really was caught unprepared by this. And the Americans are coming out, we're coming out and saying we had no idea this was going to take place, and furthermore, we had nothing to do with it. And I'm thinking, yeah, for once I believe you. Of course, we didn't have anything to do with it. Look how brilliant it was in its conception. Look how brilliant it was in its execution. Look how smart, technologically savvy, sophisticated this attack was. You see, this is what our CIA used to be able to do decades and decades ago, before it got into the regime change business here at home, before it got into toppling Donald Trump from power, before it decided to meddle into domestic politics and spy on American citizens. We couldn't pull something like this off. Not with the current leadership, not with the current people that we have, these politicized hacks. So yeah, I do believe we had nothing to do with it because it was too successful and too well done. Now, as for the larger geopolitical fallout, I think now there's no question. We are now heading towards a major war in the Middle East. The war in Gaza shows no end in sight. It continues to go on and on and on. Iran now is going to continue to arm Hamas. Now they have faced a huge strategic defeat. In fact, people are saying this is the greatest security breach in the history of Hezbollah. That the terror network now suffered a major blow in these coordinated detonation attacks over the last couple of days. And that Hezbollah is vowing massive response. Iran is vowing massive retaliation. My friends, I think it's pretty obvious. We are drifting now towards a major war in the Middle East. The United Nations is going to be calling a major Security Council meeting on Friday, obviously to condemn Israel, because that's all these people are good for, is to hate Israel and hate the Jews. Yet, what nobody mentions this, is that Hezbollah continues to fire missile after missile, rocket after rocket into Israel from Lebanon. No one ever mentions that they're engaged in criminal aggression against Israel on a daily basis, that they're violating Israel's sovereignty on a daily basis, that they're deliberately targeting Jewish and Israeli citizens on a daily basis. So, Israel doesn't have the right to defend itself? What, is she supposed to stand there and take it? And just allow missile after missile, rocket after rocket to kill their civilians? Men, women, and children? I don't think so. And so, what is very clear is that Israel realizes that if it does not deal with the Iranian threat now, it may be too late as Iran marches towards the bomb. And that's why Netanyahu made, I think, the very brave, courageous decision to use Mossad to deliver a massive blow against Hezbollah. And let me just say this, and then I want to open it up to the phone lines. 617-266-6868 is the number. This is what happens when you have incompetent buffoons running our country. We are now on the verge of World War III in Ukraine. Ukraine is now firing long-range cruise missiles deep into Russian territory. They're targeting now major Russian cities. They have now invaded and annexed a chunk of Russian territory. Putin is vowing the mother of all responses. We now have Hezbollah and Israel about to engage in a massive war on the northern flank of Israel. My friends, dark days are coming to world peace and world security. And there's a vacuum of leadership at the top. We need Trump. We need him now. 620 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, honestly, I don't know what's more impressive, really. The brilliant Israeli attack on Hezbollah, which has now crippled their entire communications network, taken out much of their top leadership, wounded and maimed thousands of their fighters through these coordinated detonation attacks on their pagers, their walkie-talkies, their handheld radio devices, solar panels. It was incredible. But it also has delivered an immense psychological blow. Hezbollah is reeling. They are cut off. They don't know who to speak to. Their communications now has been completely disrupted. They are now, they don't know what to do, who to trust, who not to trust. Mossad has delivered now one of the greatest blows against terrorism and Hezbollah in recent memory. And the Biden administration, completely flat-footed. Listen now to John Kirby. Roll cut 20. He's a spokesman for the Biden regime from the Pentagon. Roll cut 20, Mike.
What's the White House response to the exploding walkie-talkies in Lebanon today? I know Karine addressed the pagers yesterday, but what's the latest U.S. assessment, and does the U.S. consider this a justifiable escalation?
What I can tell you is we were not involved in yesterday's incidents or today's in any way, and I don't have anything more to share.
I believe him. For the first time, I think he's telling the truth. He's a compulsive, incorrigible liar. Okay, Kirby is. You know, just like Biden and Kamala. But I believe him. I really believe him. As I said, it was too well planned, too well executed, and it's obvious they would have had Netanyahu given them any foreknowledge, any advance warning, they would have tipped off Hezbollah. Our government would have tipped off Hezbollah and the Iranian Ayatollahs. And that's why they even kept it secret from us. And it's one of the major reasons why the attack was so successful. So what does this tell you? That our staunchest ally in the Middle East has to now keep one of their most sensitive, major military intelligence operations. They have to keep it secret from us, the United States, for fear that we're going to sabotage them. I mean, seriously, what does that tell you? Now, look, I think Bibi had no choice. I think Mossad had no choice. Hezbollah was escalating and escalating and escalating. They were shelling and raining rockets on northern Israel. And after a while, Israel had no choice, or else you would see an all-out war on its northern front. So Israel had no choice but now to deliver this massive, massive attack. The problem now is Iran is going to retaliate. Make no mistake about it. They have to. They have lost tremendous prestige now in this attack. So we are now drifting slowly but surely into a major war in the Middle East. That's what happens when you have a senile buffoon and this cackler, this incompetent idiot, Kamala Harris, running our government and running our ship of state. And so my question now to you, double-barreled question, do you support Israel's decision to have launched these coordinated, detonated attacks, first on pagers, then on walkie-talkies, killing dozens, wounding and maiming thousands of Hezbollah agents? And do you now fear that we are on the brink of a major war in the Middle East? John in New Hampshire, you're going to kick us off. Thanks for holding, John, and welcome.
Thank you, Jeff. How are you doing?
I'm still sick, but battling through. Go ahead, John.
You're right. You kind of stole my thunder. I was going to say that if they had even given us an inkling of what they were planning, it would have, just blown up in Israel's face for, telling Americans what's going on. We can't be trusted, unfortunately, anymore.
Yeah, I mean, if it was Trump in office, they would have told. Of course, they would have told him because they know, first of all, he would have given him the green light and give him all the diplomatic backing and cover that they need. But more than that, they would trust them that nobody would leak anything. So, in other words, look how our own allies can't trust this administration. And, John, we're not talking about a neutral country or, it wasn't like this attack was launched, I don't know, on Jordan or Egypt or something. We're talking Hezbollah. They chant death to America every day. They are the proxy of the Iranian mullahs. They are one of the most vile, vicious, dangerous terrorist organizations in the entire world. And the administration is going to side with them and tip them off, that their leadership now is about to get decapitated because their pagers are going to blow up in their face. John, final word to you. Actually, we don't even have time for a final word, John, because I'm up against the hard break. But it pretty much says it all. I mean, you drop your jaw. It's just jaw dropping. This is how untrustworthy and treacherous our regime is. 6:31 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, my friends, I want you to listen to this now. Breaking news. Here is now multiple media outlets are now reporting that the Iranian government unleashed hackers in which they stole Trump campaign information. So the Iranian regime hacked into the Trump campaign and they stole vital campaign information and then gave it to the Harris campaign. So stand back and think about this for a second. The greatest enemy that Israel has, that has vowed to wipe the Jews and Israel off the face of the map, the very regime who, when it was installed in 1979, the very reason, the very purpose, the very goal of this regime is death to America. To wipe, we're the great Satan, Israel's the little Satan, has now hacked into the Trump campaign account, stolen important election information, and literally, you want to talk about foreign election interference? Here it is. The Russians have never done anything this damaging or compromising. I mean, this is a cakewalk. What the Russians have done is a piece of cake compared to how sophisticated the Iranians' hacking operation into the Trump campaign is. They have taken much of the Trump campaign information, strategy, internal memos, inside information, and they have handed it over. They sent it to the Kamala Biden re-election team. So I just want you to think about this for a second. The mullahs in Iran are working as hard as they can to try and ensure that Kamala and Biden win this election and that Trump loses. Now, what does that tell you? Our most mortal enemy, maybe outside of China. And by the way, China also wants Kamala to win. And they're directly interfering in our election to help Kamala win. So what is this? And Russia has endorsed, Putin has endorsed Kamala. So what does that tell you? They fear Trump because he will put our country first. And he will defend the West and the interests of the West. Kamala is Kamala. They will roll her and roll her and roll her some more. And now you know why Israel felt the need to act and not tell the Biden regime or anybody in the Biden administration. Now, I'm telling you, when America is this weak and this fickle, when America now is this morally equivalent, and Israel stands alone, that invites aggression. And that's why the Ayatollahs are saying we may never have a better chance than now to launch an all-out war and finally wipe Israel and the Jews off the face of the earth. This is what happens when the radical left takes power. Everything goes to hell. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. You can text us 70470, 70470. This is from 917. I think it sums it up beautifully. Jeff, this war that is now brewing in the Middle East is not about a border or resources in Israel. This is not even a war about the existence of the nation of Israel in the geography of the Old Testament. This is a war about the very existence of Jews everywhere and anywhere. Hamas and Hezbollah, backed by Iran, are dedicated to the extermination of world Jewry. All Jews, from New Jersey to Jerusalem. Netanyahu is actually showing restraint. Never again means never again. The Kuhner Country poll question of the day. Sponsored by Mario's. Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. How would you describe the Israeli detonation coordinated attacks on the pagers and walkie-talkies of Hezbollah agents? How would you describe it? A, brilliant. B, despicable or disgusting. And that's how it's... AOC came out, condemned it, said it was a criminal act, that Netanyahu is a war criminal, an act of aggression, an act of terrorism against the people of Lebanon and against Lebanese sovereignty. Rashida Tlaib is losing her mind. You have Bernie Sanders condemning it. You have Elizabeth Warren condemning it. You have disgusting. Okay. So, you have many on the left now who are absolutely apoplectic, saying that it's not Hezbollah, but Israel that's the aggressor. And that Israel now needs to be punished. So, do you think it was A, brilliant, or B, disgusting? You know where I stand? A, all the way. I think it was brilliant from its conception to its execution. But that's me. I want to hear from you. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, KUHN is a national ER. You can also vote via X, very active on X. My handle there, at the Kuhner Report, all one word, KUHN is a national ER. Ron in Holliston. Thanks for holding, Ron, and welcome.
Jeff, good morning.
Hi, Ron.
Say, a few days ago, you had a caller, and I'm sure she was well-intentioned, and then also she was very frustrated. What she said was, she was wondering why all our side does is stand outside and hold flags in reaction to things. And, well, I'd be happy to explain to her why that is if she's holding a flag outside with us. The reason I'm saying that is because there's many different reasons to be having visible support for what we want. We want and we need Trump to win the election, and we also don't want to be seen as like the Loch Ness Monster of Bigfoot, as if we don't exist. We want to show the people in Massachusetts that we do exist. We're here. The people that agree with us, we support them, they support us, and it's strength in numbers. So I know I could go on and on and on about this, but it's one of the least destructive ways for us to campaign and protest at the same time, and try to flip the sentiment in this state.
Oh, I agree. No, Ron, look, look, we need more of that. I really do. I think, number one, it's demoralizing to the other side because it shows them that they can't break us. It also, look, we're standing up to them and we're letting them know we're not going to be intimidated. We're not going to be bullied. We're not going to cower. We're just not. And what it also shows is that there's still a lot of support, even here in deep blue Massachusetts, for Trump and America first. That this movement is not going anywhere. You cannot extinguish the flame of freedom. And we're not going to allow it to happen. Especially here in the cradle of the American Revolution. To me, the birthplace of American liberty is right here. So I completely agree with you, Ron. And I think it's also important to let them know that we're not frightened. We're not, all these assassination attempts, all of these attempts to demonize us, persecute us, defame us, lie about us, it's not working. And the more we show up and stand up and speak out, the more it's going to embolden other people to stand up and speak out. And before you know it, we've got some real momentum and some real energy. So I completely agree with you, Ron. 1,000%. I don't think people putting out a Trump flag is a bad idea. Putting a Trump bumper sticker, holding rallies, going outside and waving flags. I think it's a great way to show your support for the president. Frankly, we need more of it, not less. Ron, thank you very much for that call. I really appreciate it. And now I think we're going to have to start waving some Israeli flags because Israel, again, is standing alone. I mean, the administration just let them hang out to dry yesterday. You know, they wanted to distance themselves from the attack completely, let everybody know they had nothing to do with it, but also like, hey, we didn't authorize this. We didn't greenlight this. In other words, wink, wink. Blame Netanyahu. Don't blame us. They just stabbed Israel in the back again. 6:49 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. Sorry, battling. It may even be COVID now. I'm not sure. But anyway, I'm going to get myself tested after the show. But Kuhner man has not been feeling well the last couple days, so forgive me if my throat sounds very scratchy on the air and I sound congested because I am congested. But anyway, I'm going to continue to battle through. 617-266-6868. Let's go to Kevin in Norwood. Thanks for holding, Kevin, and welcome.
Well, Jeff, if you don't get tested, you don't have it. Jeff?
Kevin, go ahead. Could you repeat that?
I was saying, if you don't get tested, you don't have it. That's one way that'll go that. I was going to say how I feel about the retaliation to Hezbollah is one thing. How the Mossad is referring to it is something different. I saw on their Twitter feed, on their X feed last night. Where do you carry a pager, or where do you carry a walkie-talkie when you have one?
I mean, normally I think on your pants, like in your pants, your pocket in your pants, or on your belt, or maybe, not to be crude, but closer to the groin area, right?
Yes, I would say so. And the Mossad, I don't know if this is an official designation or if they're just colloquially referring to it like this. They're referring to it as Operation Briss.
Well, look, I got to say, Kevin, they've done tremendous damage with this attack. I mean, and when you read more about it and how they pulled it off, it's really remarkable. Like, when it first happened, I'm like, how did they do that? And then apparently they got let's just start with the pagers. The pagers, apparently Hezbollah made a bulk order. I mean, these guys really aren't very smart. I got to say this. But anyway, so they made a bulk order of these brand new pagers. And it was from a Taiwanese manufacturer. Gold Apollo is the name. Well, the Israelis intercepted that. Now, apparently they infiltrated the production plant. And right there, as they were making the pagers and, to be put into boxes and then shipped off to these, Hezbollah terrorists, that's when they planted all of these explosive material and the code, these like mini bombs into the pagers. It's like a James Bond movie. And they put in place a certain, a code whereby that message would automatically trigger a detonation among all the thousands and thousands of pagers simultaneously. So apparently, and I think they were afraid that Hezbollah was about to out them or realize that their pagers had been compromised. From what I've read, the Mossad wanted to wait a little longer. They didn't want to do it, in fact, a couple days ago. For maximum effect, they wanted to wait a tad longer. But they said, no, it may come out. And we don't want to lose this opportunity. So they sent the code out, and it's like beep, beep, beep. Now the message read like something like, this is from Hezbollah leadership. So, there's like, ooh, this is really important. It's from the top, the top Ayatollahs. So we got to pick this up. So the moment that code went out, they're like, ooh, I got to grab this. And it just went boom, 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 boom. And people were saying they were witnessing detonations, especially in southern Beirut. That's the Hezbollah stronghold. The suburbs and the southern part of the capital city, that's their territory. And other cities across Lebanon. And it was just, especially in the eastern part of the country, it was just boom, 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 boom. So some people were literally blown up, like literally blown to smithereens. Others, as I said, had, eyes gouged out, body parts, their groin blown up. I mean, rushed to the hospital, bloodshed everywhere. And they followed it up yesterday on the walkie-talkies. They hit solar panels, radio handheld devices. And I think that's it. I think for now, that's pretty much all you're going to get from Mossad. But, I mean, they have taken out much of the terrorist network, especially the leadership. This has been an absolutely brilliant, it's a masterpiece. This was really a masterpiece. And to me, what I can't believe, Kevin, is they had to do it in secret without telling our government, because they know that Biden and Harris would have tipped off the Iranians and Hezbollah. To me, this is the part that I find mind-boggling. And as I said to Grace last night, really, I take my hat off to the Israelis. I really do. That was an absolutely brilliant operation. But, we used to be able to do stuff like that, really. The way the Mossad is feared and respected around the world, like, you don't mess with these guys. And they'll go that extra yard, that extra mile. If they got to go to a production plant in Taiwan, actually it was produced in Europe. They had the patent from the Taiwanese manufacturer, but the actual production was in Europe. But anyway, if you got to go on, or wherever you got to go, and infiltrate people to get on the supply chain, the production line, and you're going to have to insert explosive material and technology to detonate something, you do what you got to do. It was ingenious, it was creative, it was bold, it was outside the box. And, Hezbollah's got to be, think about it from Hezbollah's point of view. Can you trust using a cell phone? Can you even trust watching television? Maybe Mossad has something in your TV. Like, what it's going to do now is just going to create a sense of, like we're surrounded. No matter what we say, no matter what we do, Mossad knows our every movement. So the psychological effect of this, on top of the physical toll it took, it's a masterstroke. Look, the Israelis have to be this smart because they're surrounded in a sea of Muslim anger and Muslim hatred. There are 350 million Muslims in that part of the world that want to wipe them off the face of the earth. So they have to do everything in their power to survive. But, now our CIA, all they want to do is manipulate our public, our people here at home, into thinking Trump is a dictator. So what the Mossad did now is what our CIA used to do back in their glory days. Final word to you, Kevin. What say you?
Well, it's a shame. It's a shame that something like this has to happen, but it's really a retaliation stroke, and I agree it was brilliant from both an effectiveness and knocking out their communications and in a psychological op as well. And what does it say that Iran is siding with not only the Biden-Harris campaign, but the entire deep state, all the rhinos in Washington too? I mean, it's our arch enemies are siding with Trump's political enemies or political rivals. It says a lot.
Oh, it says everything. And Kevin, look, the Ayatollahs love John Kerry. I mean, they love him. And, his daughter is married to an Iranian. But, I mean, they love Jean-Francois, John Kerry. They love Pepe Le Pew. So, they hacked into the Trump campaign and stole vital campaign information and secrets, and they gave it to the Kamala people. They're not just rooting for Kamala. They're hacking on behalf of Kamala. I mean, our arch enemy, it wants the Democrats to win. There you go. I mean, if that doesn't tell you everything, I don't know what will. Kevin, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868 is the number. Tom in Lynn. Thanks for holding, Tom, and welcome.
Yes, sir. I have 3 points.
Yes.
One, when I first read it was 12 killed and 2,700 wounded, I thought that's got to be a mistake. I went to another site and another site. They all corroborated the same numbers. So they hit almost 3,000 people. So number two, when I read that this product was licensed in Taipei and it came through Hungary, I immediately thought of Johnny von Neumann and Edward Teller. And Jeff, number three, with Edward Teller in mind, the wild card here is what? Dimona.
Well, Tom, I got to ask, you're making excellent points, by the way. Tom, let me ask you this. Do you think now, this is the only criticism I'm hearing within Israel about what Netanyahu did. Look, they felt in some ways he had no choice. Hezbollah was getting more and more emboldened. They were launching more and more missiles, more and more rockets. In fact, they were pounding Israeli villages in the north. Israel's had to evacuate thousands of their citizens from the north. And so, fearing this is going to escalate, spill over into an actual war, Netanyahu said, look, we got to strike now. We got to try to really now decapitate their leadership and eviscerate their network. The only criticism I'm hearing within Israel is that now this makes a war between Israel and Iran more likely, not less likely. In other words, you've humiliated Iran, you've humiliated Hezbollah, and in the Muslim world, you can't lose face. And the Iranians now have lost complete face. And so now Israel, instead of preempting a war or preventing a war, it's almost guaranteeing a war. What say you?
They moved the 98th Infantry Division out of the Gaza. They're putting them up on the north. They want to create like a 10-mile buffer zone. There's a river. I don't know the name of it. I forget. And I was on the Daily Star this morning, and Nasrallah is supposed to talk, I think it's like 2 o'clock our time. And the Jews are fighting on 3 fronts now. The Gaza, now in Lebanon, and the West Bank. They're going at it in the West Bank pretty good. So, again, the wild card is Dimona. You know? That's it.
Tom,
That's all I got.
Thank you very much. Very, very good call. Very informative. Hassan Nasrallah is the leader of Hezbollah. So that's when he said he's going to talk. Look, we're going to see. He may come out today and say it's an all-out war now. They've got 20,000 to 30,000 rockets and missiles, and we're just going to launch them and launch them and launch them and launch them, and we're just going to throw all our fighters into and invade northern Israel. That's the big fear. Now, I don't think it's going to happen for now, because I think Iran needs to get its ducks in order to authorize this. But my point is, this is the one criticism of Netanyahu. I don't share it. I'm just telling you that's what's being voiced in Israel, is that we're now closer to war than ever before. And Iran is now technically nuclear capable. Whether they have a nuclear weapon, I don't think so. But they are now technically capable of creating a nuclear weapon. So this is what I mean. You've got to have the right leadership here. It's not just for the United States. It's for peace around the world. When you have reckless leadership here, it can lead to, really, literally, it could lead to World War III. So whether it's Russia, Ukraine, or the Middle East, but things are worse now than they've been in a long, long time. 617-266-6868 is the number. Mark in Medford. Thanks for holding, Mark, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. First off, I want to say one thing to you, okay? No matter what gets thrown your way, whether it's death threats, threaten to take you off the air, the flu, COVID, being the true freaking patriot that you are, you never miss a beat. And I want to personally thank you from the bottom of my heart for being on the radio today, because I know by the sound of your voice, you sound a lot worse than you did yesterday, Jeff. And please don't take that the wrong way.
No, I don't. Thank you, Mark. I do feel worse. Yeah, thank you, Mark. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you.
I was gonna lead with your lead story today, but then when you broke the news Spygate with Iran sending everything to Harris's campaign, I wanted to tell you that Donald Trump last night posted it on Truth Social, and all in caps, Jeff, he types, "Wow, just out. The FBI caught Iran spying on my campaign and giving all the information to Kamala Harris's campaign." Therefore, she and her campaign were illegally spying on me to be known as the Iran case. I love this guy. I really do. So will Kamala now resign in disgrace from politics? And will the communist left pick a new candidate to replace her? That's a good question, Jeff, because if this is true, does that not immediately disqualify her from running?
Oh, no question. Oh, Mark, absolutely brilliant. I'm telling you, you're brilliant. You're on fire today. Look, Mark, they got everything. His precinct strategy on how to win Pennsylvania, his precinct strategy, certain pockets in Michigan that they think they can grind out another 20, 30,000 votes. The polls that they think are the most suspect in terms of voter fraud, that they're really going to be monitoring. Like, what I'm saying is, this wasn't just a couple of strategy memos that they stole everything and then handed it over to Kamala's people. And Kamala's people took it. So Kamala is actively collaborating and colluding with the mullahs, the Islamo-Nazis in Iran, the Ayatollahs, to defeat Donald Trump. Of course it disqualifies her. She's a traitor. Absolute traitor. And, remember, Hillary Clinton, she didn't allege. She said Putin interfered on behalf of Trump. Putin helped Trump win an election in 2016. Trump is, Putin's puppet, blah, blah, blah. But even she didn't say, the Russians gave him compromising information and Trump took it. Even she didn't say that. It was all lies. But my point is, even she didn't accuse Trump of that. We're not accusing anybody. The FBI is saying this happened. Our intelligence agency said this happened. They hacked into the Trump campaign and took all of their vital information and secrets. Everything. By the way, New Hampshire, Trump has a strategy to win New Hampshire. That now is in the Kamala Harris campaign. All of it was leaked to Kamala. So, Mark, she's in bed, she's doing business with the Ayatollahs. Now, how many Americans have they killed? How many Americans have they held hostage? How many times can they chant death to America? How many terrorist attacks have they launched against American citizens and American bases and American embassies around the world over the last 40 years? And this is who you take campaign information from? Hacked illegal information? So Trump is not 100, he's 1,000% correct. She should step down and resign immediately. Immediately. Final word to you, Mark in Medford.
Jeff, this just proves our point that where we thought there was nobody more stupid than Kamala Harris, but apparently her campaign people are more stupid than she is. Did they not think if we accept this, we could possibly get caught with the technology that's out there? You get caught taking a poop, for God's sakes. Did they really think that they were going to get away with this? Jeff, what is going to be done now about this? Or are the Republicans just going to sit with their fingers up their butts like they always do and just let it go away?
Mark, as always, thank you very much for that call. Let's go to Brian in Hopedale. Thanks for holding, Brian, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Brian.
I want to comment about what the Mossad did over there in Lebanon. I thought it was brilliant, and thank you for filling some of the technical details there on how they were doing it, because that's what I was wondering about. But it's kind of scary in this respect that that ability is there. You kind of wonder if they can plant bombs like this on things like pagers and walkie-talkies. What can they do with a cell phone? Can they? We already know they can track you and do things, with other technology to follow you around and find out what you're doing, what your purchase power is, and that kind of thing. It's kind of scary when you think of it.
Well, look, Brian, I mean, this is not news. I've noticed, it's incredible. I'm talking to my wife. Okay, just like, I'm in bed, about to go to sleep or whatever. I have my iPhone, and I'm just, I'm going through stories, last minute show prep, whatever. My wife walks in, whatever. We talk about the day or whatever it is. And so she'll say, hey, Ashton was wondering, this is what she said to me. Ashton is wondering, would you be willing to buy him one of those small plastic kayaks? Because he likes to go, he's like a fishing nut. Okay, he's becoming like obsessed with fishing. He loves fishing. So, daddy, he wants me to get him a small little kayak, plastic kayak, so he can go in the middle of a lake and fish from the middle of the lake. Now, she asks me that question. 2 minutes later, Brian, I've got ads on my phone promoting, $400, $399, $459, $429, great kayaks, 8 feet, plastic, the best kayak you'll get for the money. I'm like, my own phone is listening in on me. Like, really, my own phone is listening in on me. So they're already spying on us. Now, imagine what governments can do with that technology. This is not conspiratorial. I mean, it's obvious now. They can spy on you through your TV. They can spy on you through your phone. Now, if you got a pager, they can blow it up. I mean, the potential now for Big Brother is massive. It's massive. No, and the Israelis have to be credited, honestly. They saw an opening, and they took it. 19 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay. The Mossad, Israel's intelligence agency, launches one of the most, frankly, in my view, one of the most brilliant, sophisticated, daring, coordinated detonation attacks really in human history. I mean, it was James Bond-esque. It really was, except it's real. So, 2 days ago, thousands and thousands of pagers that were used by Hezbollah to communicate with each other were blown up simultaneously. Many were killed. Thousands were maimed and wounded. They followed this up yesterday with another wave of coordinated detonation attacks, this time on walkie-talkies and radio handheld devices, solar panels. Again, devastating. Dozens in all over the last couple of days. Dozens of Hezbollah agents are dead. Over 5,000 wounded, maimed, or crippled. My question to you, what do you make now of the actions done by Israel? Do you support them, number one? And number two, do you now believe we are heading into a war, towards a major war in the Middle East? 617-266-6868 is the number. Annie in Chelsea. Thanks for holding, Annie, and welcome.
Hello?
Annie.
Hello, Jeff. I love you in a non-sexual way. Jeff. Who's got the balls now?
Yeah, well, I gotta say, man, Netanyahu's got a nice pair on him. Let me just, he's got a pair. I'll tell you this. He did it. He did it knowing that Biden and Harris would disapprove. He had to do it in secret. He didn't tell Biden. He didn't tell Harris because they would have tipped off the Iranians and Hezbollah. So there you go. So the United States now is the enemy of our allies. The world is upside down. 617-266-6868. Jimmy in Dorchester. Thanks for holding, Jimmy, and welcome.
And Jeff, I hope you're feeling well. My neighbors all around me are praying for you and your family that you guys get well.
Thank you. Thank you, Jimmy.
Okay, here's the thing I want to say about Israel. It was brilliant, an A. But here's the thing, Jeff. What's coming in 20 days that people ain't paying attention to?
I was going to say the the J.D. Vance Waltz debate, but that's not 20 days. What is it, Jimmy?
It's going to be the attack on Israel a year ago, October 7th.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you're right. The October 7th, the 1-year anniversary. That's right, Jimmy.
But here's the thing. It involves Russia in a way also, where Russia has been given their nuclear technology to the Iranians for missiles that the Iranians are giving Russia. But here's the thing that happened last night. You didn't see what happened in Russia. There was a drone attack, and they hit a munitions dump 12 miles away from Moscow. There was a seismic attack from that explosion so powerful, 2.5 all the way to Norway. Jeff, I think there's going to be more to this than happens with NATO making a vote to let the storm, shadows be used on Russia. Going in 200 miles, there's going to be more attacks. It's going to be a bigger war. It's going to be Israel being attacked by the Arabs, all these nations, and Russia coming at us because we're the ones that are giving them the coordinates where to do their attacks. And it's going to get ugly. If NATO passes it, it's going to be a bloodbath with two major battles taking place. Am I correct, Jeff?
You're completely correct. Look, those are cruise missiles that were given to Ukraine by the British government and with the blessing of NATO and the blessing of the Biden regime. And they said, you want to fire deep into Russian territory? Be our guest. So now Ukraine is raining missiles and drone strikes on key targets, military depots, bases, cities all across Russia. And now the Biden administration is deciding whether they're going to allow American missiles, our cruise missiles, to be used by Ukraine into launching these strikes deep into Russian territory. So the war there is going to escalate. It's going to get uglier. It's going to get bigger. By the way, the Russians now are escalating their attacks on Ukraine. They're leveling cities. They're hitting Kiev, the capital, hard. I mean, really hard. So, and again, potentially this thing could go nuclear. So you're right. The problem now is we've got an escalation between Ukraine and Russia and a possible escalation between Iran and Israel. So we've now got two major hotspots in the world that it's out of control. The West has lost control of both the Middle East and Ukraine, Russia. And that's why Trump is urging people. And that's why RFK said himself, he goes, I am endorsing Trump on Ukraine alone. Just on Ukraine and the Middle East alone. Because we need peace. Because if you continue this war to go on, the chances of a nuclear war become more, not less. So, Jimmy, fingers crossed that we can at least survive until Trump wins in November. Jimmy, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868 is the number. Let me ask all of you, do you fear that we are now heading towards a major World War III with Biden, that empty suit? He's on the beach, by the way. That demented old fool in the White House. 731 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, got an absolutely brilliant message from Ken on Messenger. Ken, if you're listening, IQ definitely above 140. I guarantee it. Guarantee it. Okay? So, he made an excellent point. He said, Jeff, we're all scratching our heads, tearing our hair out. He didn't say this. I'm saying this. Tearing our hair out. Who's the mole? Who's the leaker behind Trump and his whereabouts? Well, as Ken put it, in the messenger, Jeff, who's to say it's not the Iranians who have been hacking into Trump's campaign? They get his schedule, and they've been leaking his whereabouts to not just the Kamala campaign, but to the FBI and to others. And maybe this explains why the shooters seem to know exactly where Trump is going to be at the precise place at the precise time. Because believe me, there's nothing the Ayatollahs would love more than to take Trump out. So we're now watching the Kamala campaign collaborate and collude with the Iranian mullahs in order to take down Donald Trump. And the Iranians, by the way, have never, never forgiven Trump for ordering that strike on Soleimani, which really decimated the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. It was, the mullahs themselves said, it was the equivalent of losing a major city in terms of its military and strategic significance, that strike on Soleimani. So this, maybe, we're looking at it solely from, who in the deep state? Maybe this is the Iranians working with our people to take down Trump. Just to suggest, just thinking out loud, but I think there may be something to it. 617-266-6868. Okay, this is John Kirby again. He's now asked by Mary Bruce of ABC News. So, you didn't want to say anything about the pagers all blowing up, being detonated. The second day was the walkie-talkies. So, listen now to this response. What do you make of this attack? What's your response? Roll cut 20A. Mike.
Blowing up pagers and walkie-talkies. Is this type of warfare acceptable to the United States?
I'm simply not going to be able to address these incidents over the last couple of days in any level of detail.
Yeah, I can't talk about it. You can't talk about it because no one told you about it. And no one told you about it because no one can trust you about it. But what I find incredible is, you have these reporters now, this is immoral. This is not humanitarian. You don't blow up pagers. You don't blow up walkie-talkies. You don't blow up solar panels. These are crimes against humanity. Number one, almost every single one of them that was maimed, wounded, or killed were part of one of the most evil terrorist networks in the entire world. Okay? Hezbollah. So, I don't know what you're talking about. These are terrorists. Okay? That's numero uno. Number two, so let me get this straight. Dropping cruise missiles onto Russian cities and killing innocent Russian civilians. That's okay. That's okay. So you can drop a missile, say on, Kursk, okay, in Russia, and kill a 4-year-old girl. That's okay. When the Ukrainians do it, that's okay. But if you blow up a pager that belongs to, Mohammed, okay, one of the top senior leaders of Hezbollah, suddenly, is this level of warfare, this type of warfare, is this acceptable? Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. 617-266-6868. Here is the problem. I'm going to play this cut from Kirby. Here is the problem. And this is my fear. This is the fear of the Middle East. This is the fear of Israelis. This is the fear of Europeans. This is the fear of Americans. This is everybody's fear. Roll cut 20B, Mike.
We want to see the war end. And everything we've been doing since the beginning has been designed to prevent the conflict from escalating.
Yeah, the problem is it continues to escalate. Israel, it started with October 7th. and the war between Hamas and Israel because of Hamas, who viciously attacked Israel and slaughtered innocent men, women, and children. Now it's on 3 fronts. Actually, technically 4 fronts. It's in the south in Gaza. It's in the north with Hezbollah. It's in the West Bank, because things are really heating up there. And you go way further west, way further east, my bad. You go way further east, and it's with the Houthis in Yemen, launching missile after missile after missile into Israel. And all of it being masterminded and orchestrated by Iran. So rather than preventing it from escalating, all they've done is allow it to escalate. The Ukraine war is escalating. Everything is escalating under these people. And that's why we need Trump. We need mature, responsible leadership. On Iran, he will reimpose the crippling sanctions. He will contain the mullahs. He will starve them of money. He will break the back of Hamas and Hezbollah. And that thing will end, and it will end in a way that Iran loses, and that we finally get, at least in the short term, some peace. As for Ukraine and Russia, both of them are exhausted from the fighting. Front page, Wall Street Journal, just a couple days ago. 1 million dead or wounded in Ukraine. 1 million. The country is exhausted. It is war weary. It doesn't want to fight anymore. It can't fight anymore. The Russians want a peace deal. So we can have a negotiated peace and end this thing once and for all. And the killing, the slaughter, the carnage, the senseless destruction, all of it. All of it. And yet, instead of sitting down at the negotiating table, what does Biden and Harris, what do they want? More war, more escalation, more missiles, more billions and billions pouring into Ukraine, and money for the military-industrial complex. That's why I'm telling you, if you want peace, vote Trump. If you're anti-war, vote Trump. If you want peace in the Middle East, vote Trump. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Scott in Revere. Thanks for holding, Scott, and welcome.
Jeff, I love you in no sexual way, my friend.
Thank you, Scott. I appreciate it.
Thank you for taking the bullet today, Jeff. You sound rough. I love you to death, but you sound rough.
No, I feel really sick. Scott, I really don't feel well.
I know, I could tell. But dude, thank you very much for coming on the air. I appreciate it. All of Kuhner Country does, believe me. So it goes appreciated. But Jeff, you know what's worth $1 million? Is listening to a U.S. general sound like he has no clue what just happened in the world. No clue at all. That was worth $1 million to me, because that tells you exactly how much our best friends, Israel, thinks of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. That tells you exactly what they think about us. Then Biden and Harris sending pallets of money over to Iran. This is all, Israel takes note of this stuff. And I think it was absolutely brilliant. And he should do more of it, because he's making everyone else, he's doing everyone else's job. And it's pretty sad that our media, like you just said, which was perfect, it's okay for us to send long-range missiles from England or from here, doesn't matter from who, into Russia to kill kids. That's okay. But if we fight back in any way, shape, or form, we're the bad guys. Again, this country got it all backwards.
Scott, drop the mic. We've got it all backwards. Look, I feel like now we're living in the twilight zone. You're completely right, Scott. Up is down, down is up, black is white, white is black. Everything has become inverted. And I think, look, Kamala's poll numbers are crashing. And I think one of the reasons why they're crashing now is they look at her and they're like, the world's upside down. The inmates are running the asylum. And they can clearly see it now. The world is spinning out of control. We need mature leadership in the White House. Before it's too late, for God's sake. 7:49 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, my friends. 602. You can text us 70470. 70470. 602 makes a politically very incorrect point. But it's true. It really is true. And this is about Lebanon and what happened to Lebanon. Jeff, I don't know if you saw this, but yesterday there were videos coming out of Lebanon showing the Lebanese rebels celebrating these attacks on Hezbollah. They absolutely hate having them in their country. They had set up vehicle checkpoints and were passing out candies. Secondly, I don't think most people realize what a great country Lebanon was back in the 1960s and early 1970s when it was under Christian rule. It was like the Riviera of the Levant. And by the way, that is very true. That's exactly how they said it was like the French Riviera of the Levant. Beirut used to be known as the Paris of the Mediterranean. And anyway, this person continues. It had beautiful Mediterranean resorts, great shopping, restaurants, boutiques, a first world civilized society. But then when the Muslims took over, they turned it into an absolute, I can't say this on the air, they turned it into an absolute, let's say, crap hole and a war zone. That's very true. That's exactly what happened. And that poor country now has been suffering and has been a mess ever since that happened in the mid-1970s. And they've never recovered, ever. 617-266-6868. Okay. This is a huge story on top of what happened actually in Lebanon with the coordinated detonation attacks on the pagers and now the walkie-talkies. This is what Donald J. Trump posted on Truth Social. Mark read it earlier. I want to read it again because it's really now getting a lot of play. Wow. Just out. The FBI caught Iran spying on my campaign and giving all of the information to the Kamala Harris campaign. Therefore, she and her campaign were illegally spying on me, to be known as the Iran case. He is hilarious. I got to tell you, the guy's really funny. You know, Russia. Now, Iran. Will Kamala resign in disgrace from politics? Will the communist left pick a new candidate to replace her? Well, she should resign. This is, naked election interference. And you want to talk about collaborating and coordinating and working with a hostile foreign enemy. That's exactly now what the Harris campaign has done. So just so that you know, the Iranian regime has hacked into the Trump campaign. They got everything. All of their strategy memos, their plans to win key districts, key precincts, how they planned out to prevent the steal, all of that important, sensitive information. They got all of it, and they have sent it to the Kamala campaign. The Kamala campaign have now taken the information, and they're now going through it, using it to counteract what Trump wants to do over the next 5 to 6 weeks. So forget Russia collusion. Kamala has now been caught engaged in Iran collusion. Our mortal, most hateful enemy on the planet. And that's now who they're teaming up with in order to defeat Donald Trump. I mean, it doesn't get more vile, more sick, more treacherous, more treasonous than this. 617-266-6868 is the number. Steve in Maine. Thanks for holding, Steve, and welcome.
Oh, my goodness, Jeff. It's been such a long time since I've talked to you. I just want you to know you're doing a wonderful job, and being in there with whatever you got, man, you're toughing it out, and I really appreciate that because I look forward to you every morning. I just want to say that, I mean, from a biblical perspective, we need to know that the book, the Bible, which you have a copy of in your home, and most Christians do, is a Mideast-centric book. It doesn't mention the United States specifically at all. It's a Mideast-centric book. And there are many, many books in that Bible, well, the majority of them, that are prophetic. They're all, poetic and beautiful and historical, and they go along with science, history, and scripture is just one because it's all owned by God, in my worldview. Now, what's happening now in the Mideast has been foretold. I wrote an article for the Boston Broadside. My friend wrote an article, Kenny Novak, in December. I wrote one about the New World Order and paganism and that kind of stuff. He wrote one in December 10th, I think it was, about what's happening. This is all foretold. From my biblical perspective, it's very similar to his and that of many, many Christians. That this has not played out yet, and it is now playing out, and that we are here. We are in the last of the last days. Ezekiel is clear about who's coming in. The North, Iran, Russia, and all the Islamic nations. Similar, only upgraded as to the war that I was in Washington, D.C. in 1973 that went down on Yom Kippur. So I would watch the October anniversary date. I predict that wait a minute, I can't say that. I can say I know that a biblical proportionary kind of strike is going to occur in the Valley of Dry Bones. The valley, it's going to happen. Ezekiel has said it's going to happen to wipe out Russia, the invading armies. Personally, I think we're going to be the ones to drop it. That's in northern Israel.
Well, Steve, look, this is my fear, and I think you really put your finger on something. Look, October 7th, now, 20 days away, whatever. Sorry, I'm sick, so I'm congested, so I'm a little dizzy here. So my thinking faculties aren't working as smoothly as they usually do. Basically, 3 weeks away, whatever it is. It's around the corner. Look, this is the thing about the Muslims. The Muslims love anniversaries. And their culture is you don't do things small, you do things big. If you're going to make an attack, make it a big attack. Make a lot of noise. Kill a lot of people. Don't do these ticky-tacky, kill one person here, kill one person there. So I would expect that there would be something very big on October 7th. That's number one. Number two, you're right. We in the West, because so much of our law, culture, civilization, our ethics, our morality comes from the Bible. It's a Judeo-Christian worldview that we look at things through that lens. But there's another lens that we have to look at it, to be fair. Not because it's true or accurate, but because it describes the thinking of over 1 billion people around the world. And that's the Quran. Now, the Iranian mullahs, those medieval savages that run Iran, and it's a nation of 70 million. It's got a first world navy, my bad. It's got a first world navy. It's got a large army. It's got massive reserves of oil. It's now flush with cash, thanks to Joe Biden. Well, they are convinced, they've been saying this now for a long time, they believe, whether we believe it or not is almost irrelevant, They believe that the end is nigh. This is what they keep preaching all the time, that the world is about to end. And they are waiting for what they call the 12th Imam. Basically the Muslim Jesus, the Muslim Christ, to come down. But for the Muslim Christ to come down, they say this again and again, it is prophesied in the Quran. And they completely believe the Quran, completely, word for word. They're fundamentalists. They believe that for this to happen, the world must be, and this is very specific, must be engulfed in a ball of fire. So basically there has to be a massive war. And the Jews must be eliminated, eradicated, to bring about the end of the world, the end of days, to bring about the coming of the final Muslim Christ, the final Muslim Savior. You must engulf the world in a ball of flames, and you must eliminate and eradicate every single Jew from the face of the earth. What they're talking about is a nuclear holocaust. That's what the Iranian mullahs are saying. A nuclear holocaust. That once they get the bomb, they're going to drop the bomb. And who do you think they're going to drop it on? They're going to drop it on Israel. Now, I'm not trying to scare people. I'm telling you that's exactly what's taking place. That's what the Iranian people are trying to warn us about. Most ordinary Iranians are not Islamic Shiites. They're Shiites. They're not Shiite fundamentalists. They're not. Because they've lived under these savages for the last 40 plus years. They hate them. But what they keep telling us is, they go, you don't understand. They're willing to sacrifice tens and tens and tens of millions of us, ordinary Iranians, in a nuclear exchange with Israel to bring about their fanatical apocalyptic vision. So they keep telling us, why don't you support us when we rise up against them? Why did Obama deliberately turn a blind eye when the Green Revolution happened? Why did Joe Biden turn a blind eye? There were massive protests again. The regime was on the ropes. And Biden did nothing. And so what they fear is that, and look, let me tell you this about the Israelis, because there's a third perspective. And that perspective is not just a biblical Jewish perspective. It's been forged also through the Holocaust. You have to understand this. For us, for many of us, the Holocaust is just something in a history book. For the Israelis, it's the reason why they're in Israel. Israel was created in the wake of the Holocaust. Never again. Never again. And so when the Jews say never again, what they mean is we're never going to go to the gas ovens again. We're never going to be defenseless and quietly and meekly be exterminated. And that's why the Israelis say, we may go down. We're surrounded. It's 350 million of them surrounding us. A nation of 7 million. It's really David versus Goliath. But if they go nuclear, we go nuclear. In other words, the Israelis have been saying this for a while now. You attack us with a nuclear bomb, we're going to hit you with 10 nuclear bombs. In other words, Israel may be flattened. We may go down, but you're going down with us. Because we're not going to go quietly into the good night. Hitler did it to us once, never again. So, this is why the most explosive tinderbox in the world is the Middle East. China, Taiwan, very serious. Russia, Ukraine, very serious. But those two are geopolitical. Whatever you think of Putin, whatever you think of Xi, whatever you think of Zelensky, whatever you think of the Taiwanese leadership, there's some rationality there. Agree, disagree with their strategic thinking. When you're talking the Iranians, you're talking blind, fanatical, religious extremism. When you think Allah wants you to kill 6 million Jews, and Allah wants you to blow up the Middle East and start a nuclear war, my friend, you're in trouble. So this is why you cannot allow the wars in the Middle East to escalate. Because if they escalate, they can go nuclear. And that's why you must never allow Iran to get the bomb. And this was the cause of the Obama presidency. His entire second term, he was determined to get a deal with Iran to give them the path to the bomb. And this is where we are now. This is why a war between Israel and Iran is the most dangerous war in the world. Israel has over minimum 100 nuclear warheads. Most say 200 to 300. Let's go conservative. 100 nuclear warheads. They can blow up the Middle East 10 times over. Iran now has weapons grade. They've reached uranium enrichment capacity. They now are in a breakout phase. They now have the capabilities to construct the bomb. If Iran goes nuclear, if they get the bomb, and these two countries start going at each other, you're staring in the teeth now of a nuclear holocaust, a nuclear Armageddon. So, this is what Bobby Kennedy, this is what RFK Jr. meant. This is what Tulsi Gabbard said. She goes, look, I'm an anti-war leftist. There are many things I disagree with Trump, but if you're anti-war, you're crazy if you vote for Kamala Harris. You're nuts. So that's why Robert F. Kennedy Jr. came out and said, look, on the issue of war and peace, just that alone, you have to vote for Trump. You're crazy if you don't vote for Trump. Because he will settle the war between Russia and Ukraine, and he will de-escalate in the Middle East. How? By containing the regime in Iran, starving it of money, boxing it in, undermining it. With these two idiots in the White House? Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. So, this attack by Israel yesterday was a massive blow to Hezbollah. Make no mistake about it. It sent a powerful message. The question now is, what will the Iranian mullahs do? Now, if I were them, okay, and I can't stand them with every fiber in my being, but if I were them, I say, guys, boys, Trump's coming back to power, man. November 5th, he's back in. The sanctions are back on. We're not going to have any more cash. Israel is now going to have its top backer again in the White House. It's now or never. If we're going to bring about the 12th Imam, and we're going to bring about the end of days, and we're going to wipe the Jews off the face of the earth, either we go all in now or forget it. So that's why today Hassan Nasrallah, the leader of Hezbollah, is going to speak. Now, everything that comes out of his mouth is scripted in Tehran. We're going to see now what the leader of Hezbollah says. But if he says, jihad, 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 I'm calling now for a holy war against Israel, then, my friends, it's World War III. Now, what I'm hoping is that they're so wounded by this, so crippled by this, that he's going to say, we're in no position to start a war. I mean, our people are dead, bleeding, maimed, crippled. They're in hospitals. We've been decapitated. So we shall see. But we're playing with fire. You cannot have people this reckless, this stupid, frankly, this incompetent in the White House. You're begging. You're not asking. You're begging for trouble. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. David in Brookline. Thanks for holding, David, and welcome.
Morning, Jeff.
Hi, David.
Tuned in at 6 a.m., the Caterpillar bulldozer sounded, the voice was sputtering, but considering you made most of my points just now, I think the bulldozer must be getting a healthy dose of chicken soup and Gatorade while you're on break, because actually your voice is getting stronger. All right. I want to try to make some different points quickly, other than what you made, in a different perspective. Didn't Obama try for a number of years while he was in office to screw Israel, including his way out the door, helping to pass a UN Security Council to handcuff them? That's number one. More recently, hasn't Israel been put in almost a no-win situation by these same people? Meaning, if they don't act, they might cease to exist. If they do act, it'll just be used as more fodder and propaganda to make them look bad. I've said for many years that was part of Obama's biggest goal, to cripple the U.S. economy, and if he couldn't get rid of Israel, just to really diminish them greatly. And sadly, that's what's happening. So I think Israel did a great job, but unfortunately, they had no choice. Number three, excuse me, I must be getting it through the phone, Jeff, what you have. Under President Trump, you had peace, prosperity, flourishing, and breaking out. What do we have now? I mean, for the people who don't want to get down into the weeds, what do we have now? We have wars, chaos, and misery, and that includes higher prices every time I go to the grocery store. And last couple points, Jeff, and I'll be very quick. And speaking as a Jewish person, which I don't really like doing, but it's now or never, as you say, I want to speak to the moonbats and the so-called educated Jewish people. I call them the self-hating, foolish Jewish people. You're more aligned with the party than with the Democrats.
David, can you please hold on? Because there's a lot of liberals who listen to this show, and I know some of them are actually liberals of the Jewish persuasion. I want them to hear what you have to say. So hang on, David. I'm up against the break. More with your calls next.
Here we go again.
820 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let's go right back to David in Brookline. He was on a roll. He says he's a Jewish person. He's a person of the Jewish persuasion, but he has a message for liberal Jews. David, please pick up where you left off.
Thank you, Jeff. Thanks for setting it up that way and letting me make the point. And I want to try to be real succinct, but indulge me a little bit with this abstract analogy. The mullahs or the people running Iran, they're not interested in peace with Israel. In Israel, you have Christians, you have Jewish people, you have Muslims living in relative peace and prosperity for the most part. Where else does that go on? Picture if you are living in Brookline right now and your mortal enemies that want to kill you. It means nothing to them, Jeff, because as you set up beautifully in your earlier segment, these are, I'm sorry, I'll put it more blunter. These are blood-curdling, death-worshipping cults. That's what the mullahs are, living in the 5th century. This is the 21st century. But if you are living in Brookline, in Coolidge Corner, and your mortal enemies with cannons and guns, let alone nukes, are aiming them at you from Chestnut Hill, what do you think is the room for error there? It's nothing. And so I remind people that it's the geography. And Israel is a tiny little place. They've been on the front line as an ally to the United States of this craziness I don't know, as you said, 40, 50 years it's been going on. So they don't just want to wipe Israel off the map. That's just step one. So my final point, Jeff, it's A and B. Under President, the Moonbat Democratic Jewish people, their loyalty, it doesn't seem to be as an American citizen, let alone an affinity for Israel. They seem to be so aligned to the Democratic Party, like that's a cult. They can't think straight. So my point is, under President Trump, they tried it for 30 years. The Bushes tried it. Clinton tried it. Even Obama, to a much lesser degree, said, okay, let's work it out. Let's do it this way. We'll give you this. They didn't want to make peace with Israel. So Trump came in as a business guy, whether you like his personality or not, says, you know what? Let's choke off the head of the snake with money. And once that happens, good people of good intentions will come together. And that's what started to happen. And these wackos in the Democratic Party or globalists or who's ever driving them didn't want that, Jeff. And that's where we are today. And one P.S., and you made it earlier, Trump was on fire last night, on fire in New York. I've never, in years, I haven't seen him with so much energy. And I hate to mention, there was a late night Fox show. I stopped watching them when they got rid of Tucker. He was phenomenal, funny, with a live audience. It's really worth it. You can get it on.
Oh, yeah,
demand.
that was on Greg Gutfeld. Yeah, no, David, excellent points, as always. Excellent points. David, thank you very, very much for that call. No, look, people forget about this. Remember Obama and Biden? The billions of dollars in cash on pallets that they secretly flew in to give to the Iranian mullahs? Billions of dollars? They were arming the mullahs to the teeth. That's what they were doing. Who are we kidding? Now, let me just say this, because everything you said, David, is completely correct. You know, take Howard Stern. Okay, he's washed up now, but anyway, the washed up shock jock. Okay, he's Jewish. I don't care, but I'm just saying he's Jewish, right? He's talking about, liberal Jews. He's now come out and said, not only is he endorsing Kamala, not only does he hate Trump, but he doesn't even want Trump's supporters to listen to his show. He's saying, I hate Trump so much, I hate you for voting for Trump. Don't ever listen to my show. So I'm not even asking you to be an American. I'm not even asking you to vote for your self-interest. Where is your pride as a Jew? I'm sorry, but I have to ask. As a Jewish person, where is your pride? The mullahs in Iran hold conferences on the Holocaust almost every single year, denying the Holocaust. Well, they do both. They deny the Holocaust, but then cheer on the Holocaust. Like they can't seem to make up their minds. Either did it happen or did it not happen? Well, half the time it didn't happen, but then the other half, he should have killed them all. Hitler should have killed them all. The second best-selling book in Iran after the Quran, it's Mein Kampf. Okay, it's Mein Kampf. The mullahs in Iran have openly said, we are the heirs of Adolf Hitler. They admire Hitler's anti-Semitism. They admire his exterminationist Jewish policies. And they are openly cheering for Kamala Harris. They're working now with Kamala Harris to hack into the Trump campaign, to hack into their information, and to help Kamala win. And you're going to vote for them? As a Jewish person? Are you kidding me? 8:30 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, liberalism's worst nightmare. Okay, my friends, listen now to Congressman Mike Waltz. He's a Republican from Florida. He was on Fox News, and he says the quiet part out loud about this coordinated attack by Israel's intelligence agency, the Mossad, on all of these pagers, and the next day walkie-talkies and solar panels. where they were just detonating them by the thousands. They sent out one code message, which just triggered them all, almost simultaneously. And in city after city after city, it was boom, 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 boom. Explosions everywhere. Thousands maimed, crippled. Hezbollah agents, some of them killed. They don't know what hit them. A devastating attack. The biggest security breach in the history of that terrorist organization. Listen now to Congressman Waltz. Roll cut 21, Mike.
The Israelis know how to send a message, don't they? And pun intended there. But this was a masterful covert operation. The Israelis intercepting the supply chain, getting those distributed, and then being able to set them off simultaneously. It's an operation, I guarantee you, that Biden and Harris, had the Israelis told them about it, would have tried to shut down and would never approve for our own intelligence community.
Bingo. They never would have approved it if we tried to do something like that. They would never have approved it if the Israelis told them about it. And let me be brutally honest with you, they would have tipped off Hezbollah. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. Because that's how nefarious this regime is. Listen now to Waltz saying, all you have to do is look how they treat Iran, which is the mastermind of Hamas and Hezbollah. Look at how Trump treats Iran, and look at how Harris and Biden treat Iran. Roll cut 21A, Mike.
Look at the difference in the approach. Biden and Harris, concession and chaos. They're wearing our Navy out, trying to deter Iran from launching more attacks. You look at President Trump, dry up the cash through maximum pressure. And you look at the Israelis, they take out a Hamas leader in downtown Tehran. They take out a Hezbollah leader in downtown Beirut. And now they cripple the entire organization through this masterful covert operation. Again, it's peace through strength. Trump knows it. The Israelis know it. Concession after concession leads to chaos. That's Biden and Harris, and the contrast couldn't be more clear.
I couldn't have said it better myself, really. And look, I can tell you this. The world is waiting for Trump to come back. The Europeans want Trump back. They want peace. They fear this war between Russia and Ukraine is going to escalate into World War III. And you know who else wants Trump back? The Israeli people want Trump back. They know they had peace under Trump. And people forget this now. It wasn't just that he contained Iran, which he did, and put all this maximum economic diplomatic pressure, starved them of money, starved them of oil, starved them of funds. But he also had Israel and the Sunni Arabs, like Saudi Arabia and others, form an alliance. Remember the Abraham Accords? Trump did the impossible. It's like a part of his checklist. Check, 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 check. We don't sit back and think about what a remarkable accomplishment it was. Trump made peace between Israel and the Arabs. Under Trump, they signed the Abraham Accords. And the Sunni Arabs and the Israelis made a deal. And they said, you know what? We're going to stop being at each other's throats. Why? Because the greater threat is Iran. So what Trump did was, he asked the Israelis, what's your biggest threat? Iran. He went to Saudi Arabia and the other side, Kuwait and the United Arab Emirates and Qatar and all these other, wealthy Gulf sheikdoms. And he said, what's your biggest threat? Iran. Hey, maybe you don't like the Jews. And he goes to the Israelis. Maybe you don't like these Sunni Arabs. But the enemy of my enemy, if not my friend, is at least my ally. Guys, cut a deal. You both share the same enemy. Cut a deal. Put past hostilities, in the leave them in the past. Let bygones be bygones. You have a common enemy. We have a common enemy. Let's team up together. and the Saudis and the Israelis, they did the impossible. They said yes. Biden has ripped that alliance apart. So it was, again, Trump was masterful in how he completely encircled Iran. Because he had the Sunni Arabs against him. He had the Israelis against him. We were obviously containing them. That's why they were in a box. They couldn't do anything. So what Trump is going to do, I hope he does, when he comes back, is restore the Abraham Accords. Again, we can have peace between the Israelis and the Arabs in the shadow of this threat from Iran. But you have to have the vision, the guts, and the leadership to do it. And Kamala Harris, forget it. She now wants to cut off military aid to Israel. I don't know if you heard about this. So she wants to cut him off at the knees. Her daughter, who's, by the way, Jewish, or her stepdaughter, Jewish. Not that I care, I'm just stating a fact. She's Jewish. She's fundraising for Hamas. Her stepdaughter is fundraising for Hamas. Ay, ay, ay. So, look, if you want peace, vote Trump. If you want more war and more chaos, vote Kamala. Really, the choice couldn't be clearer in November. Agree, disagree. Bob in Plymouth. Thanks for holding, Bob, and welcome.
Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure,
earlier in the show, you mentioned all these countries that are in favor of Kamala Harris to be president. And I was so disappointed yesterday when I heard this this leader of gigantic union here in this country would not endorse Trump. I couldn't believe this word salad he was dealing out yesterday. I don't know where he stands. I don't know whether somebody's gotten to him. I just don't know who to trust anymore. I don't trust this guy anymore. Did you see him yesterday?
Oh, you're talking about the Teamsters, Bob?
Yeah,
the Teamsters union head?
Yeah.
Well, apparently he's got a problem because the Teamsters for decades have endorsed the Democrats. But apparently now the rank and file, they did an internal poll, 60% of the Teamsters, the actual union members, are supporting Trump. So the leadership didn't know what to do. I mean, for 30 years, they had always backed the Democrat. Now they're like, the problem is the overwhelming majority of our rank and file are backing Trump. So hence the word salad, Bob. Yeah, but the point is they didn't endorse Kamala. If they were honest, they would endorse Trump because that's what the majority of their rank and file wants. But the point is they didn't endorse Kamala. And the reason is she's losing the union vote. Forget the union leadership. She's losing the union vote. She's losing the blue-collar vote. She's losing the working-class vote. And that's why she and her campaign are in big, big trouble. What we're watching over the last 7-8 years, and it's really now crystallizing, is the transformation of the Republican Party. This is the stuff they're going to write about in history books. It is now a working class party. It is a labor party, a working class party, a middle class party, a populist party that is all because of Donald J. Trump. And my prediction, over the next several election cycles, you're going to start to see unions have to reflect this new reality. Where in the past they endorsed Democrats, now they're going to come out and endorse Republicans. It's going to be inevitable because the people on the ground are going to push it. They're going to insist on it. But I digress. 617-266-6868. Andy in Milford. Thanks for holding, Andy, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. Hey, first of all, prayers to you and your family to get healthy again.
Thank you. Thank you, Andy.
Well, Jeff, I must say the point I was going to make has already been made. And just to recap, just the aspect of it that I've been maniacally focused on is that when President Trump shut off the money to Iran in his first term, the terrorism dried up. It stopped. Had that money not been turned back on, October 7th never would have happened. It's very likely Israel wouldn't have even had to have done this pager attack in the first place. So there's a big debate going on with the liberals about what is and isn't humane. It's clear what would have been humane was leaving the money with Iran shut off. I feel I just need to expand my remarks to send a direct message to the uniparty on both sides of the aisle, and especially to that uniparty on the Republican side of the aisle. And it would be this: if they think they're going to use this crisis to get us to sign off on sacrificing our nation's...
I agree with you. In other words, if they think they're going to have us send our young men and women to die in war, no way. No way. No way. I want to ask all of you, was it immoral to target the pagers? Back with that next. 8:49 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer, cleaning up the liberal bull. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, I want to play this cut. It's from Aaron Cohen. He is an Israeli special operations veteran. And look, I think he hits the nail right on the head. But you have many in the fake news media, the Democrat media industrial complex, who are blasting Israel, Netanyahu in particular, for giving the green light to this pager walkie-talkie detonation-coordinated attack that we saw against Hezbollah in Lebanon over the last couple of days. Listen now to Aaron Cohen saying, look, you want to know why Mossad did it? You want to know why the Israeli leadership said yes? This is why. Roll cut 22, Mike.
This is the most significant preemptive strike against terrorism in the history of modern warfare. Israel single-handedly changed the rules through this coordinated cyber attack. It's a monster. It not only disrupts and dismantles Hezbollah's entire communication system by going after those pagers, but it also creates a tremendous psychological effect, like we saw just recently in Tehran with the Hamas bigwig that we took out in that structure.
He's completely right. It's really put the terrorists now on their heels. It disrupted, it dismantled Hezbollah's communications network. It's a massive... Look, first of all, a lot of their top leadership was wiped out, or they were maimed, or blinded, or crippled, or badly maimed. We're talking thousands upon thousands upon thousands. And psychologically, they have to be reeling. They're like, my God, they hit our pagers, they hit our walkie-talkies, they hit our solar panels. I mean, what's next? They're going to hit our computers or iPads? I mean, everything will be blowing up around us? So, you want to talk about, really taking the fight to the terrorists. I can't think of a more spectacular, brilliant operation. Look, again, the only word that comes to mind, a masterpiece. But, you have many in the media. This is CNN. MS left BC. They're losing their minds over this. The New York Times, the Washington Post, the moonbats at the Boston Globe. You should see them. This is immoral. This amounts to a humanitarian catastrophe. These are war crimes. You had AOC yesterday saying that this was a deliberate attack on civilians, that Israel now engaged in aggressive criminal aggression and committed crimes against humanity by using these attacks. So, let me ask you, is targeting pagers, targeting cell phones, not that they did walkie-talkies, but you assume cell phones will be next, targeting people's cell phones, targeting their iPads, is this now beyond the pale? Is this an illegal way to conduct war or to go after terrorism? Are these crimes against humanity? Do you believe that the left is right when they argue this? To me, it's okay, as I said, if Ukraine wants to drop cruise missiles into Russia and kill 4 5-year-old girls, that's okay. But don't blow up the pager or the walkie-talkie of a senior Hezbollah mass murderer. To me, it makes no sense. But look, I'm sorry. Modern communications has evolved, and war has to adapt to modern communications. Or am I wrong? 617-266-6868. Is it wrong? Is it criminal? Should it be illegal to target the pagers, cell phones, walkie-talkies, handheld devices, whatever, iPads? We'll put it all on the table in order to go after your enemies. I say I agree with Israel. What say you? 617-266-6868. Darren in Wilmington. Thanks for holding, Darren, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. Good morning. It's a great opportunity to speak with you.
Go ahead, Darren.
So I just wanted to tell. I'm a lifetime union guy. I retired a year and a half ago, and I am terrified of what the Democratic Party has become. And I don't understand how. I mean, with the Teamsters coming out and say they're not, they're saying they're not supporting either one. I look at. I was in the field my entire career, and towards the end, I would say in 2016, maybe Trump had 40% of the guys in the fields vote. 2020, probably 60%. But then when I retired, I would say there was probably the guys, the grunts like me. They were all behind Trump, and our leadership is pushing this Democrats, and I don't think they're realizing that 1 or 2 nuclear bombs go off in some place. It isn't going to matter what your paycheck looks like. Your world's going to change, and nobody's seeing that. I worry about. I'm ready for whatever, but I worry about my kids. I got 3 adult kids. They're going to do. As far as Israel, freaking brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. They gave Hezbollah a taste of what Israel worries about every single day, Jeff. And I'm kind of watching and seeing, hey, what are they going to do next?
Darren, I'm with you all the way. On every point, literally every point. Look, I'm not quite as old as you are, but I'm getting there. Believe me, I'm 55. I'll be okay. Really, I'm not saying this to brag. I mean, I think I'm a survivor. I'll manage somehow, some way. If Harris wins in 2024, really, I'll suffer. Everyone will suffer, but I'll manage. I'll be okay. God's given me a good life, but it's my Ashton and my Ava. It's your kids. It's my kids. It's our, your grandkids. Hopefully, if God graces me with grandkids, what kind of a world are they going to have? I look at all I do is worry about my kids. I worry about their future, what kind of world they're going to have, what kind of world they're going to inherit. And the only thing I can conclude, Darren, it's really door one or door two. I don't think there's a third option here. The Democrats have so gone off the rails. They have gone so far to the left. Really, they're a Marxist party now. I mean, a party that officially says we are going to open up the border and give amnesty to every illegal and give them free health care and free education and free college. A party that openly says, as she does, we're going to give reparations now. Reparations, which is going to cost us literally tens of trillions of dollars. When a party starts talking like this, now, either it's one, they have become so smug, so arrogant, so full of hubris that they're utterly disconnected from reality and they're going to get destroyed in November. Or they are convinced that they're going to steal the election. To me, it's either door one or door two. Because you're not appealing to mainstream voters anymore. You're not. You're alienating. You're slapping them in the face. That's why I ask people who vote for Kamala Harris, I'm like, well, how could you defend any of this? I mean, do you want illegals to be given not just amnesty, but free college and free health care? Like, do you want that? You think that's okay? No one's giving you free college. Why should they get free college? No one's giving you free health care. Why should they get free health care? You know, as an example, do you believe you should pay reparations? You want to cut a $200,000 check? You think that's fair? For something you or your parents or your grandparents or great-grandparents never did? You think that's fair? So when I ask them these questions, they have no answers. I mean, this is a vote killer. It's a vote killer. So either they've become so arrogant, so disconnected from reality, or they can say all this knowing that, well, hey, we're going to steal it. We can manufacture 2 million, 4 million, 8 million, 10 million votes. That's what we're going to find out on November 5th, Darren. That's the great question that hangs over this election. But you're completely right. They have lost the working class. They've lost the working man because they've gone so far to the left. Final word to you, Darren.
Yeah, I don't get it, Jeff. I look at what's going on, and the parties have flipped. The Democrats, years ago, my dad was lifetime Democrat, and I don't know, I guess I'm broken, because from when I got graduated, started looking at who I'm going to vote for the first time. That was around for Ronald Reagan's second term. I was old enough to vote. And I looked at how things were when there was a Democrat in office and a Republican in office. And I went, hey, I think I'd be better off if there was a Republican. And I voted for Reagan. And that's how I've been all along. But I've been a union guy, and it's like, why don't these people see exactly what's happening? But they're so, I don't want to, I got a lot of friends. I don't want to call them brainwashed, but short-sighted maybe. Maybe that's the best way to put it. They're short-sighted. And man, there's so much on the line on this one. And, I came out of the closet. I actually registered as a Republican. So I feel good about that. And I just hope the guys out there, if there's union guys listening, don't forget about the wallet for a minute and think about your family.
Amen. Amen. Darren, thank you very much for that call. Think about your family. Think about your children. Think about your grandchildren. Because we're not going to have any future with these people. I'm telling you, they're going to wreck this country. And they're going to wreck it good. I mean, really good. Mark in Connecticut. Thanks for holding, Mark, and welcome.
I can't believe it. I was worried the whole time I was making a delivery. They were taking steel off the trailer. I'm thinking he's going to call. I rush into the truck, and that guy before me was talking. And right when I sat down, you said, Mark in Connecticut. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. So,
go ahead, Mark. Boy, wait, do you work for Mossad by any chance, Mark? Because the timing is impeccable. Brilliant timing on your part.
hey, they carried out a brilliant attack on the Democrat Party. I mean, it's no doubt. I'm surprised you didn't see things exploding in Washington. AOC drops her phone off.
Their pager should have been blowing up.
Oh yeah, if there's any justice. Jeff, it's amazing how they're always on the wrong side of everything. How can you be wrong 100% of the time? I mean, it's unbelievable. It really is. These people are on the wrong side of everything. Abortion, our wars, our freedom, everything you can name, they're on the wrong side of.
Mark, I'm just curious, are you worried with war clouds now gathering in the Middle East? The war is raging out of control now in Ukraine and Russia. Do you fear that these idiots, Kamala and Biden, and obviously Obama is pulling the strings, that they're going to lead us to World War III? Is that your fear right now?
Well, I hope they don't, because, Trump will get in there and straighten everything out. But, there's no sense in sitting there worrying about stuff. When it's my time to go, back, home and stuff and everything, then, I will go, because it'll be my time to be gone. And the greater plan of everything we don't see, we can't see, we're only humans. And, evil is going to get defeated. In the long run, evil will be defeated. And, whether I'm there to see it or not is irrelevant in the big picture of things. Now, obviously, I love my life, and, I'm not saying, I don't care if I die or anything, because I do. But there are things beyond us, and I truly believe, I'm Roman Catholic. It's my faith. So I don't really worry about things. I'm more intrigued by things and watching things develop. I read history constantly. And you could just see stuff repeating all the time. It's uncanny.
It is. It really is. That's why I love history. Just like you, Mark. I love history because it really shows you, human nature and really humanity. And you're right. It's just how history repeats itself over and over and over and over. And I think you have an incredible attitude, a wonderful attitude. That's my attitude. It's in God's hands. You just can't worry about these things. Of course you worry. You want what's best for you and your family. But in the end, it's out of your hands. It's out of your control. And we're all going to meet our maker one day. And so we can just do the best that we can and, live our lives. So, Mark, you got a wonderful attitude. And God bless you and thank you for that call. Look, hand to God. That's all I have to, hand to God. I believe he saved Trump once. He saved Trump twice. So I believe he's saving him to win. I hope so. And I'm with Mark. I think Trump will straighten all of this out. The border, he'll straighten out. The inflation, the economy, he'll straighten out. Israel and Iran, he'll straighten out. Ukraine, Russia, he'll straighten out. I think all of the major problems he will straighten out. 617-266-6868. Greg in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Greg, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure, Greg.
Israel is absolutely brilliant. Let me ask you this. Where was the outrage during Iraq and Afghanistan when our guys were losing legs and getting maimed and killed by EFPs and IEDs and all sorts of other covert weapons? I'll tell you there was none because the leftists were getting a kickback. They were getting all sorts of money from the logistics that are happening throughout GWAT. Because the leftists aren't getting any money out of this, of course they're going to sit there and talk smack about Israel. Okay? But the fact of the matter is, we're dealing with an enemy who eviscerated, decapitated, burned, tortured and raped innocent civilians, women, children, old people, okay? We are not dealing with an enemy with morals. We're dealing with the absolute... Sorry about the noise. I'm wearing the blue suit and working roadside today. We are dealing with people with no morals and no value in human life, and they should be wiped out. And you know what? God bless Israel for doing such a masterful thing with the pagers and the radios. And I can't wait to see what they do next.
Greg, don't get me wrong. I completely agree with you. Okay? Completely agree with you. And I think it was a masterpiece. I really do. And you're right. These are 7th century barbarians. They're savages. And they have no regard for life. And just to reinforce what you're saying, Hezbollah in particular, raining rockets, bombs, missiles, wiping out villages in Israel. By the way, many of them were Arabs that they were killing. Israel has a pretty large Arab population. So they were killing Jews, they were killing Arabs, they were killing Christians, men, women, children, indiscriminately. And you never hear Ilhan Omar or AOC or Rashida Tlaib say anything about that, okay? Indiscriminately killing innocent civilians. Never mind what they did to our soldiers and our troops. Blowing them up, as you put it, with IEDs, their legs, their limbs, just blowing everything off. But just to play devil's advocate, because this is what the argument now that's being made. Mark, what do you say, Greg, what do you say to the argument that now this is a different level? That now we're targeting cell phones that people speak on, pagers that people use, walkie-talkies, that we're now targeting consumer products and consumer goods and weaponizing them and potentially turning them into weapons of war. And they're saying that's why it was immoral for what Israel did. That's their argument. What say you?
Technology and the means to do that has been there for a lot longer than this instance. Okay? Now it's just coming to light, and it's going to make people aware that it's a potential thing that can happen. But as far as how it's being employed against the enemy, hey, I say it's good to go. I don't see
Greg,
it being a moral
this is how
thing.
I look at it. If you're going to use a walkie-talkie to engage in terrorism and mass murder, if you're going to use pagers to engage in mass murder, or I know they didn't target cell phones. I'm throwing in cell phones. If you're going to use cell phones or iPhones, well, I'm sorry. Then it's fair game. If you're going to use them as weapons of war to communicate, then I'm sorry, they're legitimate targets. Am I wrong, Greg?
Absolutely not. When I was in Afghanistan, they were using cell phones, radios, pagers. They were using baby monitors to initiate command detonate IEDs to blow up my brothers and sisters. Okay? So, no. Sorry. We are using the enemy's tactics against them. And I don't see that being a moral issue whatsoever.
Greg, thank you for your service, and thank you for your call. Look at this guy. He's working. He's doing a construction detail on the road, and he's calling me from work on the road working. That's Kuhner country. They listen and they call while they're on the job. On the great WRKO, Jeff Kuhner, Boston Bulldozer, 617-266-6868 is the number. John in Peabody. Thanks for holding, John, and welcome.
The great and all-powerful Kuhner. What do you say?
John, how are you, buddy?
Not bad, Jeff. I can attest to say that there is something big coming October 7th. It is my birthday, and hopefully something better will happen. But I want to make a quick prediction, and that is that I don't necessarily want the Ukraine war to end, because I know Kamala and her team will take credit for it and use it as a campaign. So that's my first bidding on that. In terms of what happened with the pagers and everything, I always believed in an eye for an eye. I think the idea was brilliant. But we know there's always a price to pay for an eye for an eye. And I get a feeling it's going to either come back on Israel itself or us. We're always in spite of any country who basically backs our allies. So, and we know we've always been hit every time our guard has been down. So I would suggest if you have an old car, keep that money pit. I wouldn't buy a new one because chances are that's going to be rigged too. So I'd play it safe and throw your money into that money pit and keep it running because I'm going to stay clear away from it, that's for sure. And I don't even think people these days can even afford it. Like I says, I in terms of the immoralness of it, and like I said, knowing full well what has happened in the past, it was all aimed at people who basically were built for killing others. And like I said, it doesn't surprise me the way people think when we strike back to pay the message. But as I said, there's always a price to pay for every time we do it.
Well, you're dead on.
So,
hey, John, look, again, as usual, very perceptive. Look, John, I think this is what people are worried about. Look, I agree with Israel 1,000%. I don't want anybody to get a misperception out of this. But I think what people are worried about is, well, we have cell phones. I use one. I'm sure you use one, or most people use one. Well, don't be surprised now if terrorists start to target cell phones. And, or computers or iPads or whatever, and they start being blown up. In other words, this is why this has captured the attention of the entire world. It's not just that it was so brilliantly done, almost like out of a movie, really. I mean, think about it. Wow. They went to the production floor of where they manufactured these pagers. They knew that Hezbollah got a bulk order. They ordered them in bulk, about like 5,000 pagers. So they found out, they infiltrated this plant in Europe from Taiwan, and they put in explosive material with this special code into all of the pagers. And now we're finding out the walkie-talkies and others, and then had a special message encoded in it that once you send that message, it automatically detonates all of the pagers. Really, it's like out of a James Bond movie. And so it's that, but I think it's also what you're talking about, which is, well, it's a new era of warfare now. I mean, the nature of my life, the nature of my job, I use computers. I use my iPad all the time to research stories. My iPhone, I love it. Here, as I'm talking to you right now, John, I have 77 tabs open. 77. Because I'm on all these different news sites, getting information, reading stories, what's breaking, what's not, trying to get different angles, different perspectives. So now, well, I'm always on my phone. Imagine if terrorists now start accessing phones and blowing them up, or iPads, or computers, or as you put it, cars, because it's all, you can track them. There's GPS location on them. They've got computers in these cars. So the irony is, the more advanced technologically we become, the more vulnerable we become to acts of terror, to attacks, to acts of war. You're completely right. So that's why people are like, I don't know. I mean, if we start targeting, I'm for it. Again, I want to say that, but they're like, well, I got a pager, and what if terrorists start blowing them up? I've got a phone, and what if terrorists start blowing them up? I don't want my face blown off or my groin blown off. It's in the iPhone's in my pants, and suddenly, boom. You know what I mean? And I'm rushing to the hospital, and, my plumbing is gone. So this is why we sense we've crossed some kind of look, it was inevitable, but we're in a new world now, and we're never going to go back to the old world. And I think that's, you're right. It's going to redound against us in some way, shape, or form. But what it's also done is it's put the terrorists on notice. Israel's not, they're not playing around. That if you try to exterminate the Jewish state, you will pay a tremendous price. And I think that message was now received loud and clear. No, and to me, again, I don't want to be a broken record, but think about it. This was one of the most daring attacks ever. And the Biden administration had no clue. 9:31 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let me throw this on the table because many of you are texting me saying, Jeff, look, many of you are saying you support Israel, as do I, obviously, and that it was an absolutely brilliant, masterful attack that they conducted against Hezbollah, targeting their pagers, their walkie-talkies, their handheld radio devices. But many of you are saying, Jeff, I thought the same thing. Is my cell phone going to be basically a potential weapon of war? Because the terrorists will retaliate, and they'll say, hey, what's sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander. If you guys say it's okay to target pagers and walkie-talkies or whatever, handheld devices, well, you know what? We're going to hit you. We're going to target your cell phones and your pagers or your iPads or your computers or, whatever. What you use to communicate with people or around the world. So are you worried, not today, not tomorrow, obviously, but down the road, you're on the phone talking to your mom and dad or your family or your friends, and all of a sudden your phone blows up or other people's phones just start blowing up as part of a coordinated terrorist attack. Are we now entering a new era of cyber warfare where we're not just bringing down computers or an EMP attack, which is, I believe, what John was also referencing, where, they can just electronically attack us and shut your car down and shut your home down and your electricity down and your computer down, but literally now blow up devices, blow them up, and either maim you, cripple you, or in some cases kill you. 617-266-6868. Lisa in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Lisa, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. How are you?
I'm sick, but I'm battling through, Lisa. Thank you for asking.
I know you sound better today. I'm sorry you're sick. Listen, I have a lot to say about this madness. First of all, old saying goes, all fear in love and war, right? That's what they say. Now, they didn't start it. They didn't pick the fight. They're just trying to exist in the middle of a whole mountains of madness, right? So I agree, brilliant. Thought it was the greatest thing I ever heard. But isn't it so funny how morality is questioned when they build all their bomb sites and put all their bombs under schools and churches and hospitals? I mean, give me a break. There's no moral comparison here. They targeted bad guys. And this has been going on forever. A landmine is the same thing. Is it not as crucial to have your legs than it is to jeopardize your communication? Give me a break. Everybody's being a little dramatic. And yeah, start worrying. If you're a terrorist and you think you're on the phone and someone's going to blow you up, oh well. Welcome to the new world. This is an atom bomb, a missile. It's the exact same thing, except this is targeting bad guys versus taking out the bad guy and taking out civilians with it. I say hallelujah.
Lisa, I got to say, you've made a really brilliant, a very compelling case. It's just as you're talking, I'm thinking, well, look, NATO, the United States, we are giving Ukrainians the most sophisticated drones on the face of the earth. And they are using these drones in Russia, and they're killing, women and children with them. It's not intentional. They're trying to hit Russian military targets, but, what they call collateral damage. So they're launching these devastating drone strikes all across Russia, and young kids are getting killed, women, old people, civilians are getting killed. That's okay. The West has no qualms about that. The liberal media, no problem. But if you target a terrorist, and you're right, we're not talking about a missile. We're talking about a targeted strike on a pager or a walkie-talkie. Basically, it blows up that person. That's it. That's it. It's like a mini bomb. Boom. Like a mini grenade. Boom. And they're losing their minds, saying, oh, my God, this is against the laws of war. You're attacking civilians. I'm like, no, you're attacking terrorists. So, to me, it's much more humane what the Israelis did than what we're doing with Ukraine. Am I wrong, Lisa?
Oh, and it's much more humane than planting a bomb in the ground to purposely maim people. It's much more humane to put your bombs under a school knowing that if they come after you, you'd have to take out the children. They lie, Jeff. Nobody is bothered by this. Nobody. Every normal person agrees that this was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Now, let me just take it a step further. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Everybody's being so dramatic. Nobody's going to, unless every single phone from this day forward is made with that programmable chip in it, and everybody has access to who bought the phone, I'm pretty sure everybody can take a deep breath, right? This happened to be a targeted, once-in-a-lifetime, bad guys ordered bulk. They knew where they were going. They waited patiently for months. Look this is my dream. So since 2017, I have dreamt about a Godfather-type scenario where all the bad Democrats simultaneously not got killed, but got arrested on film at the exact same time, so we could finally bring down the deep state. I still fantasize about it, because if we get back in, that's what's going to happen. But I want it to be simultaneous for the whole world to see. This is about as close as it gets. It was the most brilliant, perfect thing I've ever witnessed in my life.
Amen. Lisa, honestly, amen. Lisa, thank you very much for that call. And, what the interesting is the IDF came out and said, we don't want to say more, but we have more tricks up our sleeve. In other words, this is just the beginning. You're kidding. And you're like, no, I'm telling you, you have no idea the stuff that we have already in store. So if I'm Iran, if I'm Hamas, if I'm Hezbollah, I'm thinking what, the toilet's going to explode? What's next? Toilet paper? There I am wiping, and what's this? Beep, beep, beep. Oh no. I mean, honestly, I tip my hat off to the Israelis. Masterful. Absolutely masterful. 617-266-6868. David in Boston. Thanks for holding, David, and welcome.
I was originally gonna say that a while back, an hour or so ago, the subject came up about inverted realities of turning things inside out. Well, two can play that game, and I hope I don't get chopped off now, because I hope you let me follow through on this call and not react to my opening statement and then never get back to me. So let me proceed. Okay, we hear about the war on cancer. Has anybody ever considered, besides David from Boston, the cancer on war? Let's talk about the cancer on war. There's enough talk about the war on cancer. And let me explain the cancer of war. War starts out as a small malignancy. For example, in the Donbass, in Ukraine, okay? And then this cancer on war metastasizes and it spreads. And it spreads and it keeps spreading, metastasizing through the whole body, the whole world. And ultimately, the way it's treated, this cancer is with radiation. They radiate this cancer on war.
Well, David, look, you're right. I mean, look, to me, everything leads back to what happened in Afghanistan under Biden, which is you had this disastrous withdrawal, and we handed back Afghanistan to the Taliban on a silver platter. And we gave them billions of dollars of our best military equipment. We even gave them Bagram Air Base. It was a surrender. It was a humiliating surrender. And so I think you're right. It was like a cancer. It just kept metastasizing. And then the world saw, and our enemies saw, well, look how weak and pathetic the United States is. They literally snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. And so Putin looked at that and said, I'm taking Ukraine. And then China looked at that and said, we're going to encircle Taiwan, which is what they've done. And Iran looked at it and said, you know what? We're going to make our move on Israel. And so like a cancer, it had spread from Afghanistan to Ukraine, to the Middle East, to Taiwan, everywhere. 9:49 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, lines are jammed. Before I get back to the blazing phone lines, Trump was in, you need to hear this. Trump held a huge, or as he put it, huge rally in New York. New York. It was a raucous event, a lot of confidence, a lot of optimism, a tremendous amount of energy and momentum. I want you to think about this. Trump is a very smart man. He wouldn't be wasting his time or his capital in a blue state like New York if his internal polls weren't telling him New York is in play. If New York is in play, and I believe it is in play, then Kamala Harris is in deep, deep, deep trouble. Because New York to her should be what Florida and Texas is for us. It's there, solidly big state, important state, a lot of electoral college votes, obviously, but, it should be reliably in your column. If he's now on enemy territory, okay, and I mean that like politically, I don't mean that New Yorkers are our enemies, far from it. But if he's on blue state territory, okay, if he's in the heartland of liberalism and he's within striking distance, she's bleeding support. That is a very bad sign for Kamala and her chances of winning in November. Very quickly, listen to what he said about the media. It was an absolutely brilliant line, and I hope he says it again and again and again. Roll cut to Mike.
Got to get our media back in this country. We got to get them back. But the message is it's time to stop the lies, stop the hoaxes, stop the smears, stop the lawfare or the fake lawsuits against me, and stop claiming your opponents will turn America into a dictatorship. Give me a break. Because the fact is that I'm not a threat to democracy. They are.
Bingo. Bingo. The crowd went nuts. Bingo. That's how you counterpunch. Please, please, Donald, keep doing it over that line. What I just played now. Do it again and say it again and again and again. He's fighting Kamala in New York. I'm telling you, he's going to win, and he's going to win in a landslide. 617-266-6868. Steve in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Steve, and welcome.
Yeah, good morning, Jeff. I just wanted to mention there is a wonderful book that's out that's called Target Tehran. And I really urge you, and if you haven't read it yet, but you and your listeners, again, it's called Target Tehran, which is basically declassified Mossad information regarding really what has just happened.
Steve, do you know who the... Steve, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I don't know.
Do you know the author?
No. But it is ex-Mossad, which I am shocked that this even has been basically put out and it's declassified. But I believe that what's happening in Lebanon is really sending a message to Iran that as far as the U.S. holding back the bunker buster bombs to hit their nuclear facilities from the air, this is a message to Iran that internally the components that they have been buying for years to build the centrifuges and their nuclear facilities are all at risk, because as it's described in this book, this can sit dormant. What Israel has done, this can sit dormant for years until the signal is sent, and then it triggers and activates whatever they are targeting. So I think that this is more of a message for Iran through Lebanon that they are right now very vulnerable and they should be suspicious of all components, everything inside of their nuclear facilities.
That's a great point. Steve, that is a really, really good point. Look, if I was the Iranian leadership, the Ayatollahs, all their nuclear program, I'd be very worried. You know, the Israelis just going to blow it up and we'll have nuclear radiation potentially here, you know, but more than that, every computer they're on, every laptop they're on, every phone that they use, everything. They have to be looking around saying, are we being spied on by the Mossad? Are they going to blow this thing up? So psychologically, it is absolutely crippling. And I agree with you, Steve. I think the Israelis have penetrated Iran and penetrated their nuclear program. And look, that's why I admire Israel. I've always admired Israel. Israel's got pluck. It's got heart. It's smart. Their leadership is smart. Their people are immensely patriotic. They love their country, and they will stand up to anybody. And again, I look at how small Israel is. I mean, just really, Steve, from a geopolitical point of view, 350 million Muslims against 7 million Israeli Jews. This thing should be no contest. But instead, look at Israel, which goes to show you it's not the size of the fight, the size of the dog that counts. It's the size of the fight in the dog.